Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of our podcast, Plenty for Everyone. We're so glad that you're here. This is Jennifer Mulholland and Jeff Shuck of Plenty, together live in HeartSpace, our incredible retreat center in beautiful Park City, Utah, as you always say, Jen. It's so nice to be together.
Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. We've spent the last couple days with a coaching client, exploring, supporting, doing lots of healing and
really nice.
Helping her align to her light. It was a really just yummy, powerful time together. So it's so nice to be together in physical space on this beautiful sunny day.
It's great to be together. For those of you watching on video, what you see behind us is part of HeartSpace. This is what we talk about when we talk about where we bring clients and where we hold Lantern, our leadership retreat, right in this amazing space. And if you're seeing on video, you can see we're kind of pointing to one pod in the corner, the kind of nondescript corner of the building there.
The room and space is a lot bigger than this, but it's really pleasing, and we love calling it the unconference space, where you just enter the sanctuary to be held and supported to discover your real truth, your real alignment to your self and soul. And it's just been such a privilege to have so many different conscious leaders and people on the path of awakening, and business executives and nonprofit leaders and managers and entrepreneurs, and just everybody's hopes and dreams and blueprints are on the walls, which just continues to uplift and create this vortex, I think, of discovery and renewal and enlightenment, literally becoming more light as you leave here. So I'm grateful that we've built it out the way that we have, and we've had it for 10 years together. So
yeah, you say this a lot, and you just mentioned it, so I want to underline, we purposely left all the walls blank. And when we do our retreats with either individuals or with organizations, the walls get filled up. The walls become the fertile soil for people's ideas. And that's a really nice lead-in and metaphor to what we want to talk today, and what we're going to be talking about all March, which is the theme of planting seeds. As we come into spring, being intentional, giving ourselves space and quiet so we can decide what we want to bring forth. So that's what we're going to talk about. But before we do that, we just want to recap this month that we've just gone through of talking about love and leadership and conscious leadership and the courage to love, and really have been intentional, Jen, about weaving together a bunch of different posts and our podcasts from last month and shares around this theme. And in a lot of ways, yesterday was a really nice wrap up for us personally on that theme, I thought.
Yeah. Well, it's such a practice, I think, and we're certainly on the path of practice ourselves to really rediscover and remember what loving ourselves and others is, what it feels like, where it's called for, when we hold it back, and when we generously offer it. And I think, we really kind of planted some seeds in a way of
like what you just did there. Nice.
You like that, in February, around, leading with love at work and bringing love into the business and into your team and into your colleagues and your bosses. And you can't give what you don't have. Mm-hmm. So right now we're just living in such a time of incredible change, leapfrogging evolution, if you will, just the speed at which things that we thought were real or formed are shifting. And so when we're desiring to give more love, the way that we do that is by loving ourselves more. And so the month of February was really around exploring, how do you love yourself? How do you love your body? How do you love your thoughts? How do you love where you are? How do you bring more gentleness and unconditionality to yourself, where you are on the path, where you are in your emotional kind of journey of the highs and lows and your reactions to things that you like and dislike. And that practice of bringing more tolerance and compassion then gets to be spilled out and channeled toward the people we're in relationship with, whether that's at home or at work. And hopefully, for those of you who have been listening or following the practices, it is a practice of experimentation of how much softer, more gentle, more allowing we can be for ourselves and for our fellow humans.
Yeah, I love all of that. And one of the things, like you said, and to hearken to the session that we had yesterday, one of the things we also explored is there's no real leadership without love. Conscious leadership is about finding that for ourselves and then sharing that with others and helping them find it. When we work with nonprofits, we often make the point that literally the word philanthropy means love of humanity. Philosophy means love of wisdom. The idea of love is interwoven through the concepts that are foundational to our life. And so it should be and can be interwoven into leadership. And that was really nice to play with. And yesterday's coaching session was an example, because this is an executive we worked with for almost a year. And actually, she was referred to us by her boss. The CEO of her organization said, I think you need some coaching or would benefit from some coaching. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine your boss or being a leader yourself saying, I'm going to support you and pay for a year of personalized coaching so you can be a better leader by learning to love who you are? It's really amazing and incredible. And what we've learned is it's not as rare as you would imagine, that there's lots of leaders out there like that.
And it's magic. I mean, yesterday in her words, what happened, you couldn't make it up, and we couldn't see it coming, but being open to presence and open to what was needed really helped her reacquaint to her soul and to her own sense of loving herself and leading with that from that center, which is so fulfilling for the work we get to do. And I think what I'm most proud of seeing her, which is a beautiful segue into March's theme of planting seeds, is noticing her, like so many leaders and executives and ourselves, that when we get stressed and overwhelmed, we begin to hold ourselves in a rigid way, in a reactive way, in a resistive way. What we do know is that whatever we're resisting is persisting. It's going to continue. Mm-hmm. So we push against. And what happened yesterday with intentional work and holding space and guiding her to relax, to let go, to open, that resistance naturally melted away. And there was a calm, there was an allowing, there was a surrendering. And in that space, when we can calm, when we can relax, when we can open and surrender, we are in a place to receive. We are in a place to renew. We are in a place to rebirth, to remember. And that was that's the playground that we want to kind of set, create the conditions of our environment, the conditions of the soil, so that when we plant the seeds of intention and desire, we're in a relaxed space. Our adrenals are calm. Our nervous system is relaxed in such a way that it is open. Because when we're in that place, we perform better. We access more information quicker. We connect the dots faster. We find solutions. And we're able to commune to the voice of our intuition, our light, our soul, whatever you name that to be. And that was what I felt like was so beautiful about her articulation is like this craving for her soul to share its wisdom. And that's the opportunity right now as we go into March, this time of renewal, the time of spring. It's a time of rebirth. It's a time of a lot of creation and creative energy that's happening, that the best way to access that potentiality is to relax, is to calm, and is to open. And so we'll explore, I think, in the next few minutes of like, well, how do we do that? How do we get to that place, and why does it matter? So I'm really struck today how I feel and how I witness the shift in the openness, and with that open, relaxed state, then she was really able to access her own wisdom effortlessly, easily. And it doesn't have to be so hard. It can be easy, flowing, receptive.
Yeah, I think, well, you've started to tee up. There's a few themes that you just outlined there that we want to go deeper on all of them as we think about planting seeds. And one is this idea that love is the soil, that when we are in a place of love, we naturally are more calm, and that sets literally the foundation, or it sets the container for our best intentions. You also talked about relaxation and the energy of renewal that's all around. So those are some of the themes we want to play with. And maybe to start, just talking about what is happening physically, astronomically, astrologically, and I'll maybe start with what's also happening from a human perspective. You know, the time of March is the time of Lent for at least 20% of the globe, which is a time of quiet preparation, of slowing down, of sometimes taking away from ourselves so we can prepare for God. We're also in a time soon of Passover. Soon for others it will be Ramadan. And all these traditions, these human traditions and human ways of accessing spirit, kind of recognize this time as a time of quiet, even as we go physically to then the equinox and the actual day of spring. And the same thing is happening, you know, in the stars, especially right now, is something we talked a lot. Maybe talk a little bit about this time and what's aligning for us, and how that helps also kind of clear the soil and nourish the soil that we want to plant in.
Yeah, I believe that we're part of a fabric of consciousness, of life force that's in every little living thing, even in a stone, of something that we think is lifeless. There's life force, there's energy, we're a part of. And I'm, as you know, so personally interested in the larger systems at play, and what forces, what frequencies, what planetary alignments, astrology is happening. Because for me, it kind of helps me make sense of my little piece on I like why I'm responding certain ways, or can I attune to certain frequencies and energies. And it does help me loosen my grip of the unconscious control of when I get into my personality and ego, thinking I'm like controlling a lot. And then when I think about, okay, well, all this other alignment is so much bigger than me, a lot more is out of my control than I realize. So it's at the time of this recording, we're recording at the end of February. Tomorrow is the new moon in Pisces, and new moons are all about new beginnings. So it's like, this is the start of the energies coming in March, that you have this like darkness, and in the dark, you can imagine like the moon is dark in agriculture and in farming. Like, it's an amazing time to plant the seeds in the dark soil. And then on Friday, we're having this like incredible planetary parade of alignment where 7 planets are literally aligned in the sky. We'll be able to see it with the naked eye. Mercury kind of joins the parade tomorrow. And I'm just fascinated by that alignment. Like, that hasn't happened for a long time. I don't know when it's going to happen again, but it's amazing to me to think that things are aligning at such a big play. As we head into March, we've got 2 eclipses, which usually represent big change, quick change, things that are being revealed. So when you're talking about preparing, making sure that we are grounded so that the change that we can't see that's coming isn't so disruptive to us that we kind of blitz out, we fry out, right? So, and then there's a lot more happening with Mercury going retrograde and Venus going retrograde. And I won't go into all the details of astrology, but suffice it to say, there's a lot of things happening in the sky and the planets and the stars. And then as we approach your birthday.
Yes, I was just going to mention that. Thank you for.
Which is the spring equinox, this moment of stillness, this equanimity of balancing dark and light, that represents in North America the first day of spring. Again, we go into this phase of new life where the trees begin to really show their buds, where the crocuses and the tulips start to come up from the fertile soil. So we have more time than just 3 weeks to plant seeds, but new life coming up in evidence of nature. So March is a long month, especially compared to February, and there's just a lot happening. And so it's very exciting, and I think there's just a lot to be revealed that we can't see right now.
Yeah, I love. That's exactly where I was hoping you would go with all of those themes. And one thing, so what we keep pointing to is, so this is an auspicious time, as you would say, for us to do our quiet preparation, right? And even in most places, at least in the U.S. where you live, certainly where we live, in the northern U.S. Spring will be here, and yet there will still be no leaves on the tree. There will still be no crops springing from the ground. We're not talking about growth yet. We're talking about planting seeds, which always comes first. The preparation is what precedes growth. And so I love what you were saying about whether the auspiciousness comes from this incredible alignment of the planets or from, living in South Bend. I'm kind of rediscovering my Catholicism, being surrounded by it everywhere I go, with Notre Dame being there. And those signals about rest. And you know what I learned yesterday, doing my own preparation for this, which I had never known. Easter Sunday is set by the Sunday after the first full moon after the equinox. So even these institutions that we might think of traditionally very human-centric ways of finding spirit are all pulling from the same well. And that well of preparation that's needed as we get clear on what we want, and as what you're pointing to, how we get clear through love, through calm, through connecting with what's true for us and not what's true for others. The last personal thing I'll throw in, since you mentioned the equinox and my birthday, it's also astrologically, we have this kind of interesting collision that I have lived through my whole life about the creative, watery, soft energies of Pisces colliding head-on on March 21st with the bullheaded stubbornness of the ram and getting things done. And this idea of wanting to relax into things, wanting to let things just go with the flow, then collides with this energy of wanting to push things and wanting to force things. And there's certainly no better metaphor from my life than that. And I think for March and the planting seeds, we're called to prepare and look ahead, but we're also called to be patient, right? Because none of this blooms right now. So I wonder if you talk a little bit about any of those things that you feel drawn to, but that blend of how do we know when it's time to prepare? How do we know when it's time to wait? How do we know when it's time to do? And what can we learn from the world around us about all of those things?
That's a loaded question.
That's a lot.
Oh, goodness.
This is why we're taking a month for this topic, by the way.
Oh, yeah. I think what occurs to me is like we all have our own rhythm. And I love that you're on the cusp of like the watery and then the Aries energy. And I have a lot of Libran energy, which is balance and harmony and justice and peace, and it's an air sign. So, just learning to tune into what your own rhythm is. I think this time, as we go into March, there is a juxtaposition around being nimble and supple and flexible, and responsive, not reactive, to the changes that are outside of ourselves that we can't see, we can't control, and are going to be disruptive. Because my sense is there's a lot of paradigm shifting information, ways of being, that is just very different, that is coming and that is here. And so how do we deal with that without going crazy and without losing our grounding? The beautiful thing is like we are so supported to be grounded. And that I would say is like the most important tool right now is how do you find your grounding while being flexible and nimble and responsive? And for each one of us, it's going to be different because we all have different signs. We're born at different times. We have different purposes, but the work to be done in business, in life, is to really attune to what works for you. And I think what's like been surfacing for the last few years that we write about in our book, Leading with Light, is, what if we could like literally press the staple easy button? Like, what if we could give ourselves permission to choose ease? Like, and when our bodies cramp up and our bodies get stressed and we feel overwhelmed and the weight of the world on our shoulders, or we're finding ourselves less patient and reactive, could that be a cue that we are forcing something that's not meant to be at that moment? Or we're not in alignment with our light or why we're here? A lot of that is deconstructing right now, and I think it's tricky when our bodies start speaking to us in stress or sickness or dis-ease or pain or suffering or mental anguish or depression and anxiety, that we automatically go to that place like there's something wrong with me, that it's bad. But like, what if that instrument of our body is just telling us to allow the rhythm, allow flow, allow less of a gripping of life, less of a control to come. And, part of that practice is just different for each one of us. I do believe, and maybe I'm so off here with what you were teeing up, but I do believe that as we go into a lot more change, that the best thing we can do for those we love and those we lead is to do whatever we need to do to calm our nervous system, to relax, to trust, to feel supported. And the best ways to do that are through being in nature. Nature naturally, creates a better mood when you're in it, whether you're at the beach or watching a sunrise or a sunset or in the forest. Being outside, communing with the earth, because this is part of the energies of grounding. How do we ground ourselves in order to receive the higher frequencies that are coming in? being in nature more is an absolute key. Listening to music that is pleasing to you, that's a vibration that will calm your nervous system, will help you sleep. Being around, in or drinking water, having your hands in the soil or on the sand or on the path, finding and creating more space to be quiet so you can hear your own wisdom that will help you navigate the next step, what to do, what not to do. And when you don't know, which is I think your question, like how do you know when to act and when to not? Is it when you're quiet and you can create more space for yourself to listen throughout the day, whether that's scheduling a meeting with yourself or getting up earlier or having an evening routine or journaling or whatever it is for you, that you get to plug into noticing when you are feeling excited and inspired and like you got the idea, right? Or you have the solution, or you're motivated to move. And when you don't do anything. Like it's just not time yet.
Yeah.
And I think that second piece is underrated, and it really ties into the patience that you were teeing up of, well, it's uncomfortable to wait.
Right.
Like maybe the ram in you, the Aries energy of like that wants to ground, wants to bring things into fruition, wants to create, wants to bring things in a material form, that has value and importance. And when that's not active, it's easy to say my time is not being used well, or I'm not worth it, or what I'm doing isn't working. Well, on the flip side, it's like, well, if we could just allow what is to come with more patience, we'll know, we'll get a signal of inspiration, of energy, we'll lean in, we'll have an idea, we'll take a shower and we'll be like, I got it. Something, our dreams will like speak to us. Something will come that will be so infused with vitality to act, to create. And that's the attunement right now of like allowing it to come with patience, not forcing it, but then when it comes, that's the time to act.
Yeah. So a few things to underline. I loved that answer and just want to point out in typical Plenty fashion, all the P words we're using. You gave us some practicum. We talked about the link between preparation and patience. And I love that. And I think that's a really basic point to keep underlining with this metaphor and this theme that we want to talk about is planting seeds is different than harvesting, which is different than cooking your dinner, right? They're all parts of the chain of creation or bringing to ground, whether that's literally the food you eat or the project that you're creating. But it starts in this place of preparation, even before patience. And one point that you meant, I want people to listen into, in the book, we talk a lot about awareness being 90% of what we're asked to do and what we're sometimes challenged to do. And you spoke a lot about the practicum of just being aware of what is calming, being aware of the mindset where good ideas can take root, being aware of the emotional state where good feelings can emerge. Those are all ways we plant seeds. You also made a great point that I feel like we've talked to so many of our organizational clients about this month, with a lot of change happening in people's funding streams, people's strategic plans. You know, we're 8 weeks into the year, which is usually where plans are either really working or really not. Easy doesn't mean instantaneous. And again, we're often called to be patient. That doesn't mean when you see no evidence of growth that there isn't growth. So being patient as being part of the recipe, right? Being part of the plan is sometimes things take a while to germinate. And there's nuance there as a leader, particularly if you're leading a larger organization, of how do I decide if this just really isn't working and we're going to continue down the wrong track? Or how do I know if we just need to be patient and be faithful? And that's where, again, like awareness to the clues, awareness of what we're feeling, awareness of the senses that we can't articulate necessarily or can't write in a spreadsheet, but that we know. And the practicum in those cases, to parallel Jen's practicum of getting outside, finding the music, being in the work, there's organizational parallels to that. Going out where the work is being done, talking to clients and customers, going to see instead of looking at the spreadsheet, going out into the world, going to learn from others, and some of the literal tools that Jen mentioned, getting outside, taking space, making time for your team to do the same. I keep getting served this article. Google keeps serving me an article to read. I think it's from Forbes. I really don't remember. But it's Steve Jobs' groundbreaking hack to productivity. And guess what this groundbreaking hack was? He took a 10-minute walk once an hour. It's like, no shit. Yeah, I mean, yeah, like it's funny that we think that that's this groundbreaking thing, but it actually works. Changing your space, changing your environment. It's not something that you need to do on the weekend or when you get home. It's something you could do during the workday and make time for others to do the same. Hey, it sounds like we're all frustrated here. Everyone go outside for a half an hour. Hey, it feels like we've been on Zoom a lot and we're talking about the same thing. Everyone go out and take a yoga class. These aren't wild things to do, and they don't cost anything other than the courage for you to invest in the patience of your team. But they make a huge amount of difference. This happened a couple times yesterday where the client we were working with was a little stuck on something or grinding on something, or she would say swirling, and you would notice and say, why don't we take a break? And then she would go outside and go to the bathroom through that door right there, and she would come back with new insight or a new idea. And it was just that the change of scene. The idea was there. It was just that patience and a different perspective, another P word, was needed.
Yeah, I think it's just, I have so many thoughts that are downloading, but I think from that point, I kind of brought it up to her, and, soon we'll publishing a blog called Follow the Feeling of Feeling Good. And like, could it be that feeling good we've just underrated and made it a nice to have? But like, what if the feeling of feeling good was the key to the unlock of everything? Our happiness, our health, our flow, our abundance, our wealth, our solutions, our funding, our impact, making a difference in the world. I really believe that to be true. I really am curious about, and I'm not saying everything feels good, because there's shitty days and there's times I wake up and I'm in a really low mood. But if that could be the cue more often, then we start to attune more to, like, when you feel good, you have a vibration of feeling good. There's a frequency. That frequency matches like frequency. And what happens is, again, we relax, like, taking a break, canceling the meeting if it feels off and forced. Right. Like, if there's all this interference and something isn't working with Zoom, just stop it. Like, change it. Like, who said we had to, like, force our way through the muck? Like, I think it's just a really old model. Yeah. But if we could follow the feeling of feeling good, know what vibe is our vibe that works for us. Like, what vibe do you want to vibe at that works for you? And it's different for everybody. Like, what pleases your vibe so much that you just can't help but open and be curious and excited about what's to come. And then following that inspiration of, like, what makes sense to do or be. Yeah. I think you and I are in, like, great, like, microcosmic examples around something like, for you right now, you're coming alive in a new community. And what's inspiring to you is to get out in that community.
Yeah.
And to meet new people and have new relationships and to network and to share who you are and what we do. I've lived in Park City a long time. It's a brand new community because there's so many new people here. But for me, what is curious right now is I am really fascinated by magnetizing people to me and paying acute attention to wherever I am showing up doing Jennifer, I am meeting new people that are coming into my field that are blowing my mind, and there's the connection and there's the network. There's no right or wrong, just two different ways of being right now, matching the vibration of you and matching the vibration of me that feels more natural to the way I want to go about things right now. And it's more natural and inspiring for you to go out and network in the way that you are. And so I hope if you're hearing this, it can support you of like finding your unique way of how you want to be and choosing that beingness. You get to choose how good you feel. You get to choose that, what fills you up in such a way that opens you so you can better attune to your desires. Like Esther Hicks is a beautiful channel that I've listened to for 40 plus years, and she has a term of the rockets of desire, and like really listening to what is that desire. Like we're never given a desire that can't come to fruition. Like we wouldn't be able to see it, feel it, sense it, know it, want it if it wasn't in our field of possibility of creation. So this time as we prepare for March and as we prepare for this season of rich, nutrient dense soil, that we get to choose what rockets of desire, what star seeds, what lights, whatever your word is, what passion projects, what you want to have more of or less of, to get clear about that and to give yourself permission to clarify what it is you really want now for yourself, for your family, for your loved ones, for your team, for your work. What is that feeling? And maybe it's a something beyond a feeling. Maybe it's a product, or maybe it's an idea or an offering or a project. But plant that seed, get clear about what that desire is right now. And then you get to plant it, meaning metaphorically in a soil. You could literally plant it, by writing that idea on a leaf and planting it in the earth. You could plant flower seeds. You could plant lime trees, or wherever you live, some type of plant that can literally take root. Or you could literally plant that idea in your team at an organization and come to the team or the meeting with a new, fresh idea that speaks to your heart, that has life, that has energy, that you want to bring forth, and see where it lands. See what happens by sharing it and saying what you need to say to whoever you need to say it to, that seed of creation that wants to come out. So that's kind of the ripe time right now of getting clear about what that desire is, what seeds we want to plant, and then making sure that our environment is set up to nurture, to nourish, just like sunlight and water nourish the soil and create this beautiful preparation for seeds to come up and blossom in their own time when they are ready. It's the same thing for us.
Yeah, and that was great. That was lovely. And you gave us another P word there, which was pleasure. So maybe just to give a little bit of guidance on that of, well, Jen, you're telling me to find out what I desire. What if I don't know? Which I think is something that we get asked a lot, especially at Lantern. And here's some guideposts, and your mileage may vary, but in terms of pleasure, there really is a different. We're talking about deep fulfillment, soul fulfillment, which often in our world is confused with hedonism, of just stimulation. And there's a role for that. That's great, but you can kind of maybe check your own intention, coming back to awareness, and figure out the difference between the two. Fulfillment definitely has an affinity for enjoying the process. It invites patience because you lose yourself in the work or in the process. It feels inviting. You could do it all day. Where that kind of hedonism stimulation really has an energy of checking out, of like, I'm distracting myself. And again, maybe there's a place for that at times. But those places that are really calling you, that are really, you're speaking to soul desire or purpose desire, they call to you when you're not focused on them. They call to you when you're really calm, when you're dreaming, when you're envisioning what could be. And they have this affinity for fulfillment, for process, for inviting you deeper in, not for medicating over, distracting. They don't have busy mind energy to it. So that might be a tool too, is where do you see yourself losing yourself in the work or losing yourself in the time? It doesn't even feel like work. It just feels like process, enjoying the process. Those are clues to what your soul is actually calling for you. And again, that's part of the metaphor of planting, is we're invited to be positive. We're invited to be optimistic. We're invited to be faithful and to trust that it's okay to put the new idea out there. It's okay to meet someone new or to wait in your own world and wait for people to come to you, because we're going to be protected. We're going to be uplifted. And all of those signs, like those are signs inviting you kind of deeper in to being positive and faithful about the seeds that you want to plant.
Yeah, and I would just add one other great cue that really helps me listen to what feels alive and vital. And then in a weird way, I catch myself having to give myself permission that it's okay to follow the life force, the excitement. We outgrow things. Things come to a completion. We are actually in a 9-year, according to the Chinese astrology and medicine, and it's the year of the snake, which is all about like transformation, things coming to a close as they have been, completion of karmic commitments, completion of soul contracts, completion of projects, and completion of ways of things being done before the way that they've always been done. You can tune into your own kind of nuance of what that means by checking in with where you're bored. Where you're like not interested any longer.
Procrastinating, another P word.
Where you procrastinate, where you push off, where you check out, where you tune out. And it's curious because like I think like for me, and I know for you, like probably one of the biggest values that we disdain is boredom.
Yeah.
It is really hard. Like we don't like it. I fucking hate being bored, And so there's a difference between learning to like be present and peaceful versus like checked out and not interested. And there's things that interest us for a while and things that all of a sudden something else feels more attentive and interesting. And it's like any relationship. It's like, a teenager going through a bunch of different like first time loves, But I think it's a really helpful clue and cue that just notice at work, at life, at home, where you're showing up, your exercise routine, what you're eating. Like, has it just lost its flavor? Has it lost its interest? And it doesn't mean you have to abandon it. Maybe there's a creative solution for, doing things differently, but really notice where your attention has lost its luster and give yourself permission that that's okay. That's a cue of your evolution. And where is it interesting? Where are you curious? Where do you light up? Where do you lean in? And where are you leaning out, consciously or unconsciously, are great cues to just find that alignment to your own being, your own light as we navigate this time of renewal, of rebirth, of remembrance.
I love that. Well, and it's like once you plant the seeds, don't keep digging in the dirt. Let them be. And I often want to check in on them and dig in and see if they're still there, and just letting it be. So, wow, there's a lot to talk about. So all of these places that we're going to explore in the next month. We have a few great things coming up that as we close, we wanted to just share. One of the seeds we're planting is a new community and convening that you're going to hold, Jen, in two different incarnations called Soul Space. Why don't you tell everybody what that is and how they can be a part of it?
Yeah, so we're launching Soul Space online and in person here in Park City. So Soul Space at Your Space, which is a virtual online gathering for women, kicking off March 14th, once a month through May for now. You can join a series of 3 or just come for one. And then if you live in Park City, Soul Space at HeartSpace, our retreat center, kicks off on the equinox of March 20th. And again, we'll be holding that once a month for the next 3 months. And it's really intended to gather soul sisters who want to commune light to light, soul to soul, and have a really sacred space to listen to the intuition, to listen to the light within, to learn spiritual alchemy tools that I love and I'm excited to teach and share, and to really connect light to light with each other. So it is for women, and it is an online and an in-person gathering. I'll be weaving the themes of planting seeds and staying in tune with the themes of March, April, and May. But if you feel called and you're listening to this and you want to invite a sister to come who's open and interested in really finding sacred space of stillness, with guided meditation, with spiritual alchemy tools, with conscious conversation of an incredible group of women, online or in person, would love to have you sign up.
Yeah. And men, stay tuned. Jen's already in my ear about doing something similar. So if you're listening to this and Soul Space doesn't seem to fit how you identify, send me a note and I'd be interested in what you would find valuable, and we'll plant some seeds in that area too. We also are happy to say again that we are launching the last Friday of every month Awesome Hour, which has been the name of a standing meeting that we've had for 10 years. We've had a daily meeting that we call Awesome Hour, and we are opening it up for the last Friday of every month at 1 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Mountain, to the public. And our first one is Friday, February 28th, which is going to already have happened when you're listening to this. But let me tell you, it was fabulous. And hundreds of people came and we had a great discussion. And the idea is some of this in an interactive way. We're going to tee up a theme. We're going to maybe help people get calm and have a meditation and get people to be here. We may have some practicum. We may do small groups. We may take pulses of things. We're really excited to commune with many of you live. So join us. There is a registration form, mainly so we know how to send you the Zoom link. You can find that on our website, just like you can find Soul Space on our website. And you can find all of that stuff at plentyconsulting.com/events, EVENTS.
Yeah, and if this is the first time you're tuning in and you haven't been to Lantern, if you really want to drop into the light that you are and lead from that place, We'd love to invite you to our Conscious Leadership Retreat here in Park City. We have our next one in April, then in June and October. And it's really special for people in transition, for people wanting to really awaken to their fullest potential and listen to what lights them up in their passion and their purpose and their highest possibility of why they're here. And an incredible group of humans come from all over, strangers who leave as friends. So you can find that out as well at plentyconsulting.com/events. And then last but not least, if you need a tool that is a workbook-like story, if you will, our new book, Leading with Light, that hit the press last year.
Unbelievable.
In
Wow.
March 2024. It's now on Audible. It's on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, your local bookshops. It's really helpful tool to help you become more aware, aligned, and intentional in how you lead yourself and others in work and life. So there's a lot of resources. We're here to help. We're inspired to help. We are so excited for the energies and the opportunities that are coming, and would say in the face of the unknown that things feel super uncertain and it's scary to many, that I think I feel so hopeful.
Yeah, I do too.
For not knowing what's coming, but really hopeful for a better way and a better world. So really appreciate you all tuning in, and as always, thanks for a great conversation.
And we're hopeful for you. You matter to us, and we believe in you, and your part is so important. So thanks for being here. And let's plant some seeds together this March.
Let's do it. We'll see you soon. Thank you, everybody.
Bye. Thanks for tuning in. Join the conversation and learn more at www.plentyconsulting.com.